Hello, YouTube world. My name is Robbie Williams, and welcome to the Critical Cognitive Aggressive Thinking channel. Just like I told you in the last video, the previous video that I shot about a week ago, that this name, the rebirth that I had named this channel, is changed to Critical Cognitive Aggressive Thinking. So, we're past that. I want to also give you just a short rundown of my credentials. My reason for that is I want people to understand that the things that I talk about, I don't talk about it just because I just want to have a channel and talk. I talk about it because I am trained and I'm skilled in these areas. So let me start. I have an AS degree in medical office work, and I specialize in it. I also have a BS degree. The AS is Associates of Science, and the BS is a Bachelor's of Science. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Healthcare Management. After I finished those two degrees, I went on into my graduate's degree, which is a Master's of Science in Org Psych. That's organizational psychology. And I'm still in school. So I have completed those three degrees. I've earned my master's. And like I said, I'm moving further along. Just to give you an insight of who's talking on this channel, who's the host, that's me. And I am qualified to speak on these issues when it comes down to medical, when it comes down to mental health. Now, I won't be able to tell you how to do a surgery. I never trained in surgeries, but I will talk about them. So it's not that we're I just want you to know I'm not one of those channels where the person that's talking about things that he's not qualified to talk about. And that's what I want you to understand. And I want to thank all of my viewers and subscribers for being here whenever you look at my videos and giving me thumbs up and showing me love. I want to thank you all. I want to move into this topic today. This topic today is very touchy for me. It's very touchy for me because, like I said before, I was going to come. The plan is to talk about my near-death experience. So, the topic of this video, I named this video, My Near-Death Experience, and Why Diabetes Type 1 and Type 2 is No Joke. Moving right along. This year, February the 15th, early morning, getting ready for work, early morning, receiving phone calls. I was talking with a coworker from another part of the program, and then I also had a short conversation with my sister. And my plan was to make a pit stop at CVS and then head on into work. But the weirdest thing happened. I didn't make it. I didn't make it to work. I didn't make it to CVS. But when I did regain consciousness, I was in South Georgia Medical in ICU. So when I did not make it to work, they knew it was out of character for me because I would normally call and say, hey, I won't be able to make it today. That's something I would always do. So I knew it was out of character. And one of my coworkers named Michael reached out to other coworkers and then reached out to the VP, and the VP reached out to my sister. My sister mentioned that she would go and check on me first thing Thursday morning. She didn't know what was going on. Neither did I. And she found me Thursday morning, laid across the bed, unresponsive. I didn't know what happened. The last thing I can remember, I can tell you all right now, was talking to somebody on the phone that Wednesday morning. I went out on Wednesday. I checked out on Wednesday. So my sister, the way she explained it to me, when they found me that way, she was the one to find me. She called my brother in the house. He was there, my oldest brother, and they talked. They went ahead and alerted EMS. So the first responders, they came out, ended up loading me up. They couldn't get a response from me either. They loaded me up in the ambulance and they took me to the first medical facility, the closest medical facility. I mean, not the first one, but the closest one that has the, the equipment, the ability to do this type of thing, because it was critical. Ended up at South Georgia Medical in Valdosta in the emergency room. They quickly found me a bed in ICU. They moved me to ICU. They diagnosed me with diabetes. They found out that after testing, they learned that my blood sugar level was at 1,443. 1,443 was my blood sugar level. I was in critical condition. I was in ketoacidosis. And from there, they diagnosed me with diabetes, and I was in a diabetic coma. People, I would tell you this. I would never tell anyone, if they come and give me advice about how to better my health, that I don't care. I'm going to die from something, because I nearly didn't make it. And when I say that, I mean I checked out. People, your health is very important. Please share this video. Your health is very important. Obesity is an American problem that is out of control. I was weighing 240 pounds going into ICU. 240 pounds. I came out 198. I want to stress this. All of you out there in YouTube world that watch this video, understand something. You have to make your health a priority, not your friends, not your family, not anyone else. You have to make it a priority. Moving right along, in that experience, I knew nothing that was going on around me. I was checked out, gone. But I did have an experience that I want to share with everyone. And I don't care who believe it or who do. You don't have to. But I know there's a God. And I'm not ashamed to own it. I thought I was up, but I knew I was gone. I knew I was gone somewhere else. While I was in that coma, ketoacidosis, I found myself in a white room, and it was a beautiful white. It was a bright, light white, shining white. The walls were white. Everything was white. I looked down for a chair. I wasn't in a chair. I looked down for a bed. I wasn't in a bed. I was suspended in air and looking around myself, just looking around. I couldn't make out what was going on. I got nervous. I was worried, and I was afraid, because I'd never been there before. And as I just seemed like hovering there, I noticed this feeling of warmth to start coming over me. And then I saw the colors, every color that you can imagine. If you're creative in your mind, if you have a creative mind and you want to think about colors, colors galore, I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it. And these huge snowflakes of multiple colors just coming towards me, through me, and around me, just going. And as that thing was happening to me, I felt the presence in this room with me. And I felt warmth and comfort. I knew it was God. I knew it was the Lord with me. I never felt so relaxed in my life. I never felt so comforted. Nothing was said to me, but the presence was there. And it was awesome. It was awesome. For those of you that don't want to believe this, you don't have. Those of you that don't believe, you don't have to. This is my experience. And I thank God for it, because he sent me back to my body and I regained consciousness. But when I realized that I was back, I was blind. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk. And I couldn't feel anything in my body. I felt, when I say I couldn't feel, I was paralyzed, seemed to be like I couldn't move my legs. I could move my hands, and that was it. Just moving my fingers like. But then I started feeling pain, as if like a restraint, like I can't hardly explain it. I don't want to get too deep into that. But I felt so much pain. At first, I didn't feel anything. And then all of a sudden, when I started like regaining movement, that's when I started feeling pain. I knew then I was back from somewhere. I knew I just had came back into my own body from somewhere. That's just what I believe now. I'm not asking anybody to believe. And I'll never forget the colors. I'll never forget these huge snowflakes that was multiple colors and rainbow colors, breastplate, the jewels and the diamonds on the breastplates of the high priest. I never forget that. I will never forget it. It's imprinted up here. And I'm an educated man. I would tell you, I couldn't see anything. And I noticed people, and I believe it was the nurse that noticed movement. And the next thing you know, I can hear people around me talking, doctors and nurses. I couldn't see them. I didn't have eyesight. I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't move. But they were talking around me. And I can hear, they're going through their protocol. I can move my eyes from side to side, up and down, but I couldn't see what was in front of me. I couldn't see anything. And I was that way the first day. For all I can remember, I couldn't see for a day once I returned and regained consciousness. From that, I was like wondering what's wrong, but I couldn't communicate it because I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk. After hours and hours, I was able to, you know, mumble what I wanted to say. And they worked with me. They worked with me. I had a total of 7 internal medicine doctors. And they all came around me. They talked to me. They asked me questions. I tried to answer to the best of my ability. My cognitive ability was shot. My mental health was damaged. People, I say this to you with urgency. If you go and ask your doctor on your next appointment about a body mass index. I mentioned this in one of my videos before. Body mass index. Find out if you are overweight. If you are excessively overweight, you are a perfect candidate for diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension. Perfect candidate. African Americans, people of color, are targets of this dreadful disease. And we can sit back and we can go have our barbecues, eating all kind of stuff that our body don't really agree with, but we just think it does because you don't feel nothing now. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to pay the piper. I'm just being honest. I did not know I had diabetes. I'm one of the few, or one of the many, however you want to call it, that end up in a diabetic coma and finding out that I had diabetes, that I have diabetes. I'm just telling you, it's not a way to go. This is not the way to do it. This is not the way to do it, people. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm just being honest. True story, it happened to me. I'm giving it to you right now because this is my channel, this is my health channel, and I want people to know. Prepare yourself. Take care of yourself. That's your temple. This is a temple of God. And God proved to me that he can save it at his will. After going through what I went through, slowly I was able to see again. They did not release me from South Georgia Medical until by the time I was able to see, read the writing on the walls that they have on those boards. I was talking, not fluently, but I was talking, but I was yet to walk. I was not able to walk. My lower limbs were shot. Wasn't able to do nothing with it. And I was still suffering from some pain. I was transferred to another facility where they had rehab. And I went through rehab. I was out of work for 3 months and some change, a couple of days, few days. That's going through the hospital, hospitalization, and rehab. I had to learn how to walk again. I had an occupational therapist, I had a physical therapist, and I had a speech therapist. And I also had someone talking to me about my mental health. Because of everything that I went through, not understanding it, I fell into moderate depression. But I prayed and I stayed on my prayer. I stayed on it. Like I say, those that don't believe you ain't got to, but I stayed connected. to the higher being, God, I stayed at his feet, talking to him about want to be back. I want to be me again. Because when you are accustomed to taking care of yourself, doing the things that you need to do, and all of a sudden you wake up and you can't do any of those things, it will shake you. It will rock your world. Mentally, it will rock your world. And it did just that to me. And I had all of those therapists around me. I had all those doctors around me. And even today, I still get a call from a nurse to check my numbers, because I have to check my numbers myself. I do self-care. I have to make sure that I check my diabetic numbers. I have to make sure that I'm doing everything, my blood pressure, everything. And thank God that I can. So that's my near-death experience. I didn't want to get too deep in it because let me tell you something. I went through rehab. Weeks of it. I even had, at the end of all of it, I had home health care as well. So there was nurses. There was a nurse to come see me. There was a physical therapist that came and worked with me because I was still walking with a walker once I made it back home. Thank God I don't have a walker now, because I believe that God had control of all of this. And now I can share this with everybody. I'm one of the few that went into a diabetic coma, lost my eyesight, lost my speech, and lost my ability to be ambulatory. And God gave all of that back to me. So now what I want to do is go into the part about, I want to explain to everyone what we're dealing with when we're dealing with diabetic ketoacidosis, type 1 and type 2 diabetes. First of all, type 1 diabetes, they used to call it juvenile diabetes or insulin-dependent diabetes because of its ability to put you in a chronic position. Most of the time when you find people that go into ketoacidosis, into a diabetic coma, just like I did, you will be suffering from type 1 diabetes. You cannot have type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes at the same time. You will have one or the other. Can you have type 1 diabetes and then later have type 2? Yes. Can you have type 2 diabetes first and then later on start suffering from type 1? Yes. It can happen. But remember this, type 1 diabetes normally attacks people under the age of 40 and mostly young people. Mostly young people have type 1 diabetes because they end up being very much insulin dependent. I was insulin dependent while I was in the hospital. They had to give me insulin. My pancreas was not producing it. That's how I ended up in the diabetic coma. What we need to know is this, the difference between the two. You're totally insulin dependent in type 1 diabetes. My diagnosis for type 2 diabetes, once my pancreas began to produce insulin, the beta cells went to work again. And so now I don't have to take insulin every day. I take insulin only if the numbers requires it. So if my numbers go up too high, preferably around 200, 150 to 200. If it go up high, I would take a shot of insulin. And it's like 4 units. If it drops too low, around below 70, going down into the 60, the lowest my glucose, my numbers dropped was 61. And that's when they had me on a long-acting, what they call long-acting insulin. And what that would do is they give it to me in the morning, and it would carry me up to around noontime. And if I need another shot of insulin, I would take insulin 100 apart, or insulin apart 100. And that is basically like a short-acting insulin. It's just as needed, basically, something like that. And then I take another shot of the long-acting at the end of the day, in the evening, carry me through the night. That's how bad I was. And this was every day. So when we talk about type 1 diabetes, you're talking about your pancreas not making hardly any or none at all insulin. It's not producing it. And it needs help. And that's why you take the Levemir. I was on Levemir. And that's the long-acting insulin. And so the CDC in 2020 National Diabetes Statistics Report cites that in the United States, type 1 diabetes diagnosis included 1.4 million adults, 20 years and older, and 187,000 children younger than 20 with diabetes diagnosed. I'm not talking about those that have it and just don't want to go see a doctor. I'm not talking about those folks. Those folks will have to see a doctor sooner or later. And then I hope it don't be the way I had to see it. Okay. It goes on to say that totals nearly 1.6 million Americans. And we're talking about with type 1 diabetes. And from that, 1.25 million people, or nearly 30% from 2017. So it jumped, the numbers jumped from 1.2 to 1.6 million. People, I'm gonna tell you, all I can tell you is this. There's a lot of stuff we're eating that is not good for us. I've said this in a previous video I shot earlier, a few years back. Yes, I've talked about this already. And I want you to know that diabetes can slip up on you. It can catch you around the corner when you didn't know it's there. You can be just moving along in life feeling good, and all of a sudden get hit by the diabetes truck. And you didn't see it coming, because I did. I'm a living witness. I'm a living witness. Thank God I can say living witness. Let's continue this about ketoacidosis. Diabetic ketoacidosis, what we're looking at is elevated ketones in the body. And that's what the doctors are looking at when they're looking for ketoacidosis, which is a medical emergency. We're talking about it's a medical emergency when we're talking about ketoacidosis, and needs to be treated right away. When your body isn't getting enough insulin, it begins to break down fat and energy. See, what we need to understand, that's the reason why a lot of people, and a lot of people don't realize this. We need sugar, natural sugar, because sugar helps provides energy for the body. And that's the purpose of insulin. And that's why we need insulin. With no insulin, there's no body. If your body do not produce insulin, the organs will begin to shut down. It happened to me. Here we go. When your body isn't getting enough insulin, it begins to break down fat as energy. In other words, start looking for energy elsewhere. This causes an accumulation of acids in the bloodstream called ketones. If it's left untreated, the buildup can take you into a diabetic ketoacidosis, diabetic coma. Just right on into diabetic coma. People with type 1 diabetes can easily fall into ketoacidosis because of either people that is already on insulin skipping their regimen. You're supposed to take insulin in the morning, noontime, and bedtime. And the doctor say, this is how you need to do it. No, I'm going to do it this way because I know my body better than the doctor do. And then you skipping the regimens. You're not taking the insulins like you should. And all of a sudden, you end up in ketoacidosis. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'd rather take my insulin and figure out the rest later than not take it and let it slip up on me. Hint to the wise, let it be sufficient. Moving right along. When people are skipping those regimens, they either doing it on purpose or accidentally. You can also go into the state of ketoacidosis due to other illnesses, specifically pneumonia, urinary tract infection. You can be an alcoholic and go into ketoacidosis. Starvation, you can go into ketoacidosis. Or an overactive thyroid gland. It's real. You got to take my word for it. Check the CDC, World Health Organization. I don't care what people got against those organizations. Go check out the data yourself. I'm bringing the data right here to you. When you receive insulin injection, it can help you manage or regulate both types of diabetes, 1 and 2. And I had a person ask me, since I've been through this, I had a person ask me what the insulin actually does, and I said it regulates. It helps regulate. Because one person was thinking that the only time you should take a shot of insulin when your blood sugar drops too low. Know that insulin helps you balance the amount of insulin. It helps you balance. It helps you regulate the highs and lows of your blood sugar. It helps you do that because your pancreas, where the insulin comes from, supposed to be doing that on its own. That's the reason why I take glipizide. Glipizide is a pill that helps jumpstart. It's almost like, okay, let me give you a boost so your pancreas will know to do the job. That's what that does for me. And when my blood sugar level try to shoot through the roof, then I can go and do 2 units or 4 units of insulin as part. But early on in my illness, I had to have insulin every morning. And insulin, I had to take long-acting Levemir in the morning and in the evening. And in between, I was taking Aspart 100. It's not a joke, not a joke. That's why I'm doing this. It's not a joke. And the insulin, when you giving yourself the injection, some people now have the pumps. They put them, you can have the pumps. And what it does, it helps regulate. It does the work for the pancreas, so to speak. Until you reach a point to where your body is now, everything is working in conjunction with each other. And now everything is doing what it's supposed to do. But I'm still on insulin. And I'm not ashamed of it. And I don't know why people would be. I'm alive. I thank God for it. What is insulin, though? Insulin is a hormone that helps you to absorb the blood sugar so it can turn into energy, or it can be stored for you later. That's how important it is. When your body is unable to produce the sugar, you develop a high blood sugar level, which causes inflammation throughout the body. Throughout the body. Like I said, when the insulin is not coming from the pancreas like it should, it affects the rest of the body, the rest of the organs. You will break down. Like it or not, you will break down. Insulin helps blood to enter the cells in your body so it can be used for energy. Without insulin, your blood sugar can't get into the cells and build up into the bloodstream the natural way it's supposed to do it. And it can happen at any one age, although you will see this happening mostly in young people. We're talking about type 1 diabetes now. Mostly in young people, mostly in young teens. But it can happen to people above 40 years of age. It can. Insulin also suggests that the liver store blood sugar for afterwards utilization. So this insulin is doing a lot of work for your body. That's why you have to have it. is making shot calls and doing this. And hey, I need you to store this. You're going to need it later. She's going to need it later. Put it back. Hold it. Just giving it to you plainly. Blood sugar enters the cells and levels within the circulatory system. And without that insulin, I said it before and I'm saying it again, it will start signaling to the body that something is wrong. And I'm going to tell you those signals that people need to look for as I move through this. Now let's talk about type 2 diabetes. The role of the insulin is to tell the body to absorb and use the sugar so that when this system stops working properly, remember, when this system stops working properly, the blood starts to become more saturated with sugar, ultimately affecting your healthy blood flow and potentially leading to nerve breakdown. Your nerves will start breaking down. In type 2 diabetes, the body has become resistant to insulin, therefore meaning that it won't have as much effect on the body. So now we're talking about type 2. Now what type 2 is doing is like me drinking this water and it won't stay down. It resists, my body resists it and throw it back out. That's what's happening in type 2. Insulin resistant. It's not accepting. So now, think about it this way. Type 2 diabetes is usually diagnosed using a glycated hemoglobin. You're talking about glycated hemoglobin. You're looking at your A1C. My A1C was very high because I was up to 1443. You want your A1C to be below 6.0. And a lot of doctors would tell you 5.7, 5.8. Because once you start hitting 6 on up, you consider you fall in the category of pre-diabetic. So when we talk about A1Cs, that's the number that they're looking for. That's the number that they're looking for when they test in hemoglobin. This blood test indicates your average blood sugar level for the past 2 to 3 months. Results are interpreted as follows. 5.7 is normal. 5.7 to 6.4, they're looking at you pre-diabetic. 6.5 and higher, they're going to test you twice to make sure that number is accurate. Because when you go that, you diabetes. You right there. And I want to thank God. Let me give you my number, 6.2. My last check came back 6.2. And that's why I'm still on insulin. Now, there's some people have moved on to just nothing but the tablets. God bless them. Because I want to move away from it altogether. And that's the reason why right now I'm on the Mediterranean diet. Because the research shows that the Mediterranean diet is the best diet for diabetics. The next one after that, they talk about the keto diet. See your doctor. Make sure you talk to your PCP. Talk to them about the Mediterranean diet. Talk to them about the keto diet. According to the National Diabetes Statistic Report 2020, more than 34 million Americans from a trusted source have diabetes, and we're talking about one out of 10, 1 out of every 10. And approximately 90 to 95% of them have type 2 diabetes. Usually, type 2 diabetes develop in adults over 40. 40, 45. They lean towards 45. I mentioned 40 simply because type 1 diabetes stops at 40. Below 40, type 1 diabetes. Over 40, type 2 diabetes. But you can have type 2 diabetes, or type 1 diabetes rather, even if you're 50. There's a chance. So remember that. Usually type 2 diabetes develop in adults over 45 and older, but it is becoming more and more common among young adults. Diabetes total 37.3 million people have this within 11.3 of the US population. Diagnosed 28.7 million people, including 28.5 million adults. Undiagnosed, 8.5 million people. 23% of adults, 23% of America's adults are undiagnosed. Walking around with diabetes, I was one of them. Walking around with diabetes and not knowing it. I'm dropping these statistics because I want you to know that this is real. When we talk about pre-diabetics, the total, we're looking at numbers, 96 million people, ages 18 years or older, have been considered pre-diabetics. 38% of those adults in the US population, 38%. 65 years or older. Now we're looking at other numbers when we talk about 65 and older. 26.4 million people aged 65 years and older. 48% of the population they are pre-diabetics. Pre-diabetics. Some of them don't even know it. Have not been tested. Because I feel fine. But this is me crying out in the wilderness, so to speak. I go on to say this. Individuals with type 1 can still have it, which can lead to insulin resistance and other characteristics of type 2 diabetes. This is another diagnosis that a lot of people haven't heard of, what they call double diabetes. You're not having it at the same time. Not together. But, however, listen to this. Metabolic disorders increase the chances of type 2 diabetes in individuals with type 1, and they can still have that type 1. When you think you no longer have diabetes, let's say the doctor say, well, you're no longer type 2 diabetic. Next thing you know, type 1 surface. Double diabetes. You can go to the National Library of Medicine and get this information. Type 2 diabetes contains a stronger connection to family history and hereditary reasons, but not type 1. Now, studies in twins have shown that hereditary qualities play a very solid role in the improvement of type 2 diabetes. And for me, I'm still in research on that because I love to learn more about why twins, because I'm a twin myself, why twins have a different experience with type 2 diabetes. So I am researching that, and that will be a topic later. Let's talk about signs and symptoms. Diabetic ketoacidosis symptoms often comes on quickly. It hits you like I said, a moving truck. You just get the lights knocked out of you. Sometimes within 24 hours. For some, these symptoms may be the first sign of having diabetes. I'm a witness. Symptoms might include being very thirsty. Remember that now, I'm giving you symptoms now that you can look at. If you pay attention, your body telling you that you're diabetic. You need to go and get checked. Something wrong. If you're very thirsty, just can't get enough of water, just all the time. I'm just saying, taking water down, drinking it. A lot more than you used to. Urinary. Some people have like a urinary tract infection. And then some people, they end up just often urinating. You go pee, then you go back and sit down watching TV. Next thing you know, you got the urge to go pee again. You get back up and go. And you just constantly running back and forth to the bathroom peeing. Something ain't right. That might be a sign of diabetes. Being confused. You can't pull your thoughts together. Lethargic a little bit. Confused about stuff that you weren't normally confused about. Maybe diabetes. Feeling nauseous and sometimes actually throwing up. So when you run into that and you feeling like that, hey, why not go to the doctor and just have a blood test done? Just get things checked, get blood work done. Having stomach pains, being weak and fatigued a lot more than usual, shortness of breath, and I can tell you this, when I started rehab and they started working with me, when I finally got to the point where I can walk with a walker, let me tell you something, I was tired walking from my bedroom at that rehab center to the rehab gym. Tired. But that was part of the therapy to get me to walk and get used to walking again once they got me on my feet again. This may cause, now these symptoms, this may be caused by hyponatremia. And what that is lower than normal sodium in the bloodstream, diabetic ketoacidosis, or another metabolic cause. And hyponatremia, one or more factors ranging from an underlying medical condition to drink too much water, causing the sodium in your body to become diluted. When this happens, your body water level rises and your cells begin to swell. This swelling can cause many health problems from mild to life life-threatening. People, I'm just trying to, please take this video, share it with your family members. I talked about the Mediterranean diet. I'm going to tell you why. The Mediterranean style diet is one of the most healthiest diets, which is based on eating habits. It's based on your eating habits as well as what you eat. It's not easy to master because I'm trying it myself. I've been on it since I've been through it. I've been practicing it ever since I come out of my ketoacidosis. And it's not easy. But once you master that, your body, my body is feeling better already. So it's based on the eating habits of the people who live along the rim of the Mediterranean Sea. We're talking about near Asia Minor, Egypt, and all those places like that. We're talking about Africa. Nobody want to give Africa credit, but yeah. You see. Anyways, a Mediterranean style diet typically includes nuts, seeds, plenty of fruits, vegetables, potatoes, beans, and olive oil as a good fat source. Dairy products, not much, but your eggs and your fish and your poultry in low, moderate amounts. Low, moderate amounts. Low, moderate amounts, not a plate full of food like you at the barbecue and you stacking all this stuff on so you can go down and sit down and you got all these ribs and all this stuff on that. That's not Mediterranean. Okay. Just want to throw that out there. You also can have a little bread and grain. This does not mean that you cannot have sugar in your diet. Just regulate how much you are eating so you will not overdo it. Everything in moderation. That's what they say in church, and that's true. When we talk about that, we also talk about the environmental factors as well as lifestyle modification, such as adjusting to your diet and getting plenty of exercise and rest. All that can help you manage your weight and can help make your insulin that you take work more efficiently. This is what you're doing. You're trying to prepare your body. You're trying to get your body to the point where not everything is working like a sewing machine, a well-oiled engine, like they say. Because not all the organs in your body is doing what it's supposed to do. You know, God going to get me off the glyphosate to have to jumpstart the insulin in my body, the natural coming from the pain, have to jumpstart it. God going to get me off of that. I already know it's coming because I'm eating right. I'm eating better than I was eating before. When I stopped eating pork, that was just the beginning. Now, Mediterranean. Plenty of exercise. According to the American Diabetes Association, and a common rule suggests getting 30 minutes of aerobics training on most days of the week can be very helpful. That can be walking. That can be what they call speed walking, you know, a higher pace of walking. Some women go to that diabetic, they go to aerobic classes. Some people that is not diabetic go to aerobic classes, you know. But whatever you can do to help the insulin in your body work fluently and also effectively, efficiently. That's what you want. High impact workouts can be incorporated in exercise, like strolling, running, cycling, and swimming. Moreover, eating foods that are low in carbs or high in supplements like fiber and solid fats can assist you to manage your weight and reduce insulin resistance. Type 2 diabetes runs in families. Remember this. Sometimes this is due to children learning bad eating habits when they're young. They grow up with those bad eating habits and they're on poor diets for the rest of their life. Learn behavior, mental health. I'm telling you, learn behavior. A lot of stuff we do, people, is because we learned it from people that didn't know no better. Not trying to hurt you, they just didn't know no better. And then a lot of us, we get to the point where nobody can tell us nothing. But I thank God that you listened to this video. I thank God that everybody is here. In this video, you will also see the links of where I got my information from to help me explain all of this to you. I'm explaining it to you as a person that actually went through it. And I'm also sharing information, data that I researched to make sure that it is all clear and concise. Do it out of love. This is not to hurt anybody's feelings, but lose the weight, people. I'm telling you, America is the most obese place to live in the world. America has the worst diet. And I know a lot of people gonna come and holler about, no, I can tell you another place. I'm talking about read, check the numbers. Because I have never seen it like I see it now. Young people dying. People in their 30s, people in their 20s. They're just dying. More children now have cancer. And I keep telling folks, you keep eating that pork with all those diseases that it's already carrying now. And you keep chugging that stuff down, talking about it's good. And it ain't hurt me yet. Right now, I'm weaning off of beef. I only eat beef, chicken, and turkey. Those are my meats. And I'm weaning off of beef. I'm very serious about my diet. I weaned off of pork. I do not eat pork. And I'm weaning off of beef. Because we were not meant to be cannibals. We were not meant to be meat eaters. You ain't got to believe me, read about it. You ain't got to take it from me. Go to YouTube and just check it out. You hear a lot of people saying it. You hear a lot of people saying it. But you have my credentials now. I've given them to you. I've told you right here on this channel, right here in this video. I'm not joking. I'm not playing around. Diabetes mellitus, type 1 and type 2. It is no joke. Love you all. Please share my video. Like, subscribe. Click on that notification bell. I got more coming. It ain't over. Because I'm bringing it. And I'm out of here.